Hello Geeker things, Wade here coming at you with another Star Wars video, and today was pretty interesting actually. Disney held their Investor Day, and Lucasfilm had some announcements as to what their projects are going to be for the next few years. And overall, I think there's some good stories, and then I think there are quite a few duds. But be sure to leave a like and subscribe for updates on Star Wars, Doctor Who, and action figures. Let's jump right in. Here is my list of worst to first, 1 to 10, for everything that Lucasfilm announced for today. So, starting things off at number 10, Lucasfilm announced that they are going to do a series on Lando, and it's going to be directed by Justin Simien, who did Dear White People, and they didn't say what the story is going to be or anything like that. I'm going to be frankly honest, I didn't ask for a Lando story.
Did you ask for a Lando story? Do you know of anyone that asked for a Lando story?
Solo was an absolute flop. Having said that, I do think Donald Glover as Lando, he was a good choice. I think he was more believable as a young incarnation of Lando than Alden Ehrenreich as Solo. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want a series based entirely off of Donald Glover as Lando. I would much rather have a new show exploring something else. Next one, number 9. They announced a new High Republic story called The Acolyte. The director is Leslie Headland, who did Russian Doll, and they described it as a mystery thriller of shadowy secrets and dark side powers during the final days of the High Republic era. Now, I'm going to be bluntly honest, High Republic sounds really dumb to me as a story, and I'll tell you why. It essentially is a cheap, crappy bootleg copy of the Old Republic, and the Old Republic is always going to be far superior than anything Lucasfilm is going to do nowadays. I say that because the High Republic, they chose the wrong storyline and timeline for it to begin with. Old Republic was during a time of turmoil in the galaxy, and there was empires conquering each other. There was the Jedi versus the Sith. There was troopers. It is a crazy and complex and deeply rich storyline with all kinds of mythology and legends and amazing elements to it that have stood the test of time. It's amazing what they did with it. My problem with High Republic is they took none of that. Once again, they disregarded everything previously. They could have just given us an Old Republic series. I would have been fine with that. But no. They had to go and change it and choose it and substitute it for something you don't want. That's just like when you get your Walmart order and you ordered Ruffles and they're like, "Oh, sorry, sir, there was no Ruffles. Instead, we substituted it with corn." It's essentially like that. I just think it's going to be a much weaker substitution than what the Old Republic was. The whole storyline for it is essentially the Republic during a time of peace and prosperity, and the Jedi are at their height, and there's no wars, no nothing going on. They might as well just call it Star Peace. The story then goes on with space Vikings or space pirates or something like that. That just sounds boring to me. That's nowhere near as cool as the Old Republic was. But overall, I don't really look forward to that story, and I just don't really care for it. We're Star Wars fans. Nobody hates this franchise more than us. Moving past that one. Number 8. I have Star Wars Rangers of the New Republic. You know, that sounds a lot like something else. Let me think. What does that sound like? Oh, yeah, that's what that sounds like. It's going to be directed and created by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, which means they're immune to problems and making mistakes, right? No, not really. I put this down at the bottom of the list because that title sounds so silly. It sounds cheesy. It sounds lame. Like, that doesn't even sound like Star Wars. Oh, like Acolyte, Andor,
Here.
Ahsoka, Kenobi,
Here.
Bad Batch,
Here.
Rangers, Rangers. Same thing for Acolyte. Does that sound like a Star Wars movie? No, that sounds silly. Like, what is this, Marvel? No, this is Star Wars. Now, this is potentially the new show with Cara Dune in it. I think that's a possibility, but once again, they didn't say anything about it. Now, at number 7, moving past the Star Wars universe and into one of Lucasfilm's other projects, I have Willow. Now, this movie is coming out literally decades after Ron Howard's movie from 1988. It's going to have Warwick Davis reprise his role. The director of it is John Chu, who did Crazy Rich Asians. I have not seen that movie. And it's going to be shot in Wales in March, and it will debut in 2022. It's Willow. What is there to say about Willow? Oddly enough, I liked the movie. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it by any means. It's a classic George Lucas movie. I'm not sure if it's a reboot or a sequel. I didn't realize there was so much more to tell with the story. Let's be real here, Willow is not that popular in the community, and it wasn't that great of a movie. I think it's amazing they're having Warwick Davis back for that. I love Warwick Davis. I think he is an absolutely incredible person, especially to the Star Wars community. But we'll see what they do with it and what they have planned. Number 6. And looking at my list now, this really bugs me because I should have put it in number 5. But for number 6, we have Indiana Jones 5. This is going to be directed by James Mangold, and it's going to have Harrison Ford to conclude his role as Indiana Jones. They'll start filming in March of 2021, and it will release in July of 2022. Now, this is a movie that we've known about for years, and I mean years. Even before The Force Awakens, I think. All the way back in 2015, or 2014 for that matter. I think it's fine that they're doing it, and I think James Mangold is a pretty good choice. I loved Ford versus Ferrari. I think he did a good job for it. But you know how it is. It's just like when they announced Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and it finally hit theaters. I know it's the least favorite Indiana Jones movie. I personally like it. I'm a weirdo like that, I guess. But I do see why people hate it and why they think it's a terrible story. I totally get that. This, I'm just kind of iffy on because it's going to be the last story if you think about it. And I just hope they at least do it justice. They haven't confirmed if Steven Spielberg is going to be involved or not, although I imagine he is, whether he's a producer or if he's going to be a writer for it. We'll see how that one goes. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. There is a bit of a risk to it. Number 5, I have the Andor Show, and it's going to be directed and written by Tony Gilroy, who was the director for Bourne Identity. And essentially, he's going to make a Cassian Andor spy TV show. Going to star Diego Luna, Stellan Skarsgård, Andrea Arjona, Fiona Shaw, Denise Goff, Kyle Soller, and Genevieve O'Reilly. And what I really liked about what they shown was the behind-the-scenes trailer for it. It was really cool because you got to see the sets they were building. Those were some huge sets they were making for this, and it looked incredible what they were doing. But especially the costumes and props for it. They said there was about 200 named characters in the entire TV show, and there was about 6,000 as a grand total of different characters throughout the entire series. From a standpoint in TV shows and film, that is incredible and really impressive. Just imagine that. 6,000 different costumes and aliens and creatures and who knows what. What I really liked about this was the heavy use of practical effects and props. I think that shocked me the most, and I think we're going to get some really unique designs and characters from the show. My original problem with the Andor TV show of why I didn't expect anything from it was because, just like Lando...
Did you ask for it? Did I ask for it?
Yeah, when they announced the Cassian Andor TV show, that one just seemed like an odd pick. Now that I've seen the behind-the-scenes footage of the costumes and whatnot, I think I'm really going to appreciate the costumes and behind-the-scenes work more than the actual show itself, which is kind of strange, but kind of cool in a weird way. Number 4. I put The Bad Batch. Now, of course, this is following the success of Season 7 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. It's going to be following The Bad Batch or Clone Force in 99. I actually thought the trailer was pretty cool. I think they did a nice job for it. I love some of the little details they put in, such as Palpatine in his red robes, and then the green visors for the clones as well. I don't know why. Those green visors remind me of a couple of the Revenge of the Sith action figures, because some of them have green visors for, I don't know what kind of particular clones they were, but they look so cool, and I like that they had them in this. That looked pretty cool to see, and I just thought it was unique how they put that in there. But another nice like little Easter egg kind of thing was seeing Fennec in the trailer. Now, Fennec is the girl that we saw in Season 1 and 2 of Mandalorian, and I thought that's a nice tie, because I think she easily could fit in the Clone Wars style universe, and it was just really cool. If you really think about it, deep down, all this show is going to be is a Star Wars version of the A-Team. And that's where I find it to be a little flat. You see, with Clone Wars, you had a diverse perspective of the story. You had the Jedi, you had the clone troopers themselves, but you also had the Separatists and the Sith, and even bounty hunters for that matter. Clone Wars just encompassed all sides of the spectrum for Star Wars. I think for a series like this, it's going to be a little bit limited and finite in what the stories are going to be based off of. So I'm either expecting battles or wars to be going on, but I'm not expecting anything deep to go on. I'm not expecting any seasonal arcs or anything like that. I think it's just going to be a light show to watch. It was also interesting to see them tie in Order 66. It seems like they made their storytelling even more finite because they have such a small window to look at events. I don't know when they're gonna start off with Order 66 or maybe end with Order 66, or maybe they're gonna be hunting down Jedi. I'm not entirely sure. That would be really cool, actually. But that kind of window time frame just seems a little more tight than what they could have kept it at. Of course, they were really cool in Season 7 of Clone Wars, especially from the unfinished episodes. I mean, that's where they originally came from, and that's where we knew of them in the first place, and that's why they become such a fan favorite immediately, and rightly so, because they are pretty cool. But I think going to be tough to deliver because I'm not expecting the show to stand on itself necessarily. I think it's going to ride off of the hype of Clone Wars, and that's going to be it. But it may surprise us. It might be the best thing next to Clone Wars. It might even be better than Rebels, and oh god, I know it's going to be better than Resistance for sure. Now, number 3, this might surprise some of you. I actually put Ahsoka as number 3. Now you're wondering,
What? Why isn't that one at the top?
well, I'll get into that. Ahsoka is going to be directed and written by, once again, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. It's going to take place during The Mandalorian and during that timeline. And all Kathleen Kennedy said about it was a climactic story event, whatever that means. What I'm excited about this the most, I'm actually more excited than seeing Ahsoka herself. I'm excited at the possibility of seeing Thrawn in it. That, to me, that's going to be the real deal right there. I think Rosario Dawson did a fabulous job as Ahsoka.
Inner fanboy!
They casted her pretty darn near perfect, if you ask me. Overall, I look forward to watching it, and I think it's going to be an absolute banger. I think it's going to be really cool. So, what do I possibly have that's going to be higher than Ahsoka? For my number 2 spot, I actually put Rogue Squadron. Now, this one probably took me by surprise the most. Now, for some reason, I had a good feeling about this show. I don't know what it was. I think it was either the title and the open possibility that, hey, they might tie into Legends for this or old expanded universe. I mean, how cool would it be to see Wedge Antilles or X-Wing dogfights or whatever? It's gonna be really cool. I don't expect them to do that. I think they're gonna do a new story, which I do appreciate just as much. Even though I love old Legends and EU and all that, I think what I like about this is this has a completely open horizon, so many opportunities for storytelling. What I really liked was a tweet that Patty Jenkins posted on her Twitter. That tweet, if you ask me, is really cool. It is amazing to see just how much emotion is portrayed in one thing. That to me seems like on par with the same amount of passion Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have for Star Wars. I think this story has some of the most potential behind it in terms of storytelling, and I look forward to this one probably the most, but there's one higher than that, and of course, I think it's pretty obvious. Number one spot, Obi-Wan Kenobi. That has to be number one. You know it. A while ago, they announced at D23 that Ewan McGregor would reprise his role as Kenobi, but something weird happened where, I don't know what happened. It was like they announced it, and then all of a sudden, a week or two later, they backtracked saying, oh, we couldn't get a writer for the series. Sorry, it's put on indefinite hold. And you know what? For once, Star Wars fans complaining did something right, because I think they legitimately were going to put it on indefinite hold because they couldn't get anyone to write for it. And all we knew was that Deborah Chow was going to direct it, which is a great choice if you ask me. I mean, COVID played a part in it, but I don't think that was the main reason why. I think they thought of it was too big of a risk. Star Wars fans came together and they complained. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. It was an absolute outrage at the cancellation of Kenobi. And I think now they realized, oh shoot, fans actually want this. We should make it. And you know what? That's great. I want a Kenobi series. That's something I've wanted. The prime choice out of everything from Star Wars. Because you can't go wrong with Ewan McGregor. But what's also amazing is they're going to have Hayden Christensen appear as Darth Vader as well. How great is that? That is absolutely incredible and an achievement in itself, because Hayden Christensen does not get any respect for his portrayal as Anakin Skywalker. I love him. I love the prequels, but now Hayden's finally getting the respect that he deserves. I think he's going to deliver. It's going to be great. I honestly think so. For the other shows, I'm cautiously optimistic for some of them. Others I know is just going to plain suck. But this one in particular, I feel the most confident and most comfortable in. And I think Kenobi is going to be really killer and absolutely the best of the bunch. Next to Mandalorian, of course, that is the only contender. That pretty much sums up my worst to first top 10 list kind of thing. But there was also some extras that Lucasfilm talked about as well. And speaking of Mandalorian, what they said was Chapter 3 is going to come out in Christmas of 2021. But what was also neat was they talked about their Stagecraft. And that is Lucasfilm's new virtual production tool. And it utilizes real-time graphics in massive LED screens on a soundstage. They built a larger one for Season 2, and they're building 3 more for Lucasfilm. They're building one in LA, one in London, and one in Australia. And what's really cool is we haven't had anything innovative like that in years, and I mean years in Star Wars. J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson and the sequel trilogy, I don't even think they invented new technology to tell these stories or films. Because think about it, 1970s and 80s, George Lucas practically had to invent new techniques to make Star Wars, and that was with the help of ILM and the amazing efforts of those behind the scenes to make that happen. Even in the 90s and early 2000s with the prequels, George was innovative and used new technology like CGI and computers to tell his story. We haven't had anything like that for years until The Mandalorian came out, and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni came, and they pretty much used new technology with the new LED screens, and it's amazing. It's groundbreaking, it's new, and it's incredible because it's essentially more effective and efficient than a green screen. That just proves it. It's amazing how far practical effects and live things can go. It's incredible. And here's a fun fact. Even though this is new technology for the TV and film industry of using LED screens as a backdrop, this is actually something that me and toy photographers have used for years as a photography technique. It's called digiramas, where it's a digital diorama. And what you do is you have your subject in the center or in front of a screen, and the screen is behind them, and you can have them in whatever setting you like. And the results are incredible for what you can do with the camera. Now, Lucasfilm is taking that same concept and just applying it on such a bigger and more impressive scale. That to me is really special, and I love that from The Mandalorian. Next one I want to talk about is Star Wars Visions. Now, this is really cool because it's basically Star Wars anime. What's cool is they're having anime creators make an anthology collection by the leading Japanese studios. Though I think it's a really neat idea and I totally back it and support it. I love the concept of it. My problem I find with this is Lucasfilm is a few years too late with this. And I say this because this is something fans have been doing for years. And there are some incredible fan animations out on YouTube and other platforms. And you can just see their heart and soul went into it. It was a passion project. I just feel like Lucasfilm is kind of hopping on the bandwagon to participate in that or whatever. But if you ask me, I think those fan animations are going to be more special than what Lucasfilm is doing. Because, like I said before, that is the actual work of fans who animated these things, who drew these. It's incredible what fans can do. That one, even though I feel like Lucasfilm is hopping on a bandwagon, I do appreciate it. And I think it's still really cool for what they're doing. Another thing they announced was a new story. It's called Children of Blood and Bone. And apparently it's a New York Times best-selling novel by, I'm going to slaughter this name, I apologize, by Tomi Adeyemi. And it's essentially a coming-of-age classic story. I think there might be like fantasy in it. And I think it takes place in Africa. They didn't talk about a whole lot behind it, but it's just another one of their new projects that they're doing. And I think it's good that they're branching outside of Star Wars. You need to do that sometimes periodically. Even George Lucas did that. Howard the Duck.
Undoubtedly, one of Earth's greatest minds here.
Okay, yeah, forget it. He should have stuck with Star Wars. Another thing they talked about was Taika Waititi's Star Wars story, which all they said was it was fresh and unexpected and unique, which... yeah, blah, blah. Everybody says that about Taika. I don't hate him or anything like that. I liked Thor Ragnarok, but I don't know why I'm so apprehensive of him making a Star Wars film. I guess it's just because all he's known for is comedy and not actually having a plot. It's gonna be like Star Wars Detours.
You want to give me that sandwich?
I'm actually gonna take this home to my dog.
I am your dog.
Why do you have Galaxy rumors on your speed dial?
I totally saw the Emperor dancing the night away with 3 Twi'lek models.
I mean, he did fine for directing his Mandalorian episodes, but still, I think they could have focused on someone else. And lastly, they have a new one announced called A Droid Story. And essentially, it's Lucasfilm Animation and ILM Effects. Those two are going to be pairing up to make new stories about R2-D2 and C-3PO on some sort of special mission. And then there's also going to be a new character or hero in it. That one seems pretty neat to me, actually, because I've watched the original droids and Ewoks cartoons. I'm a weirdo, and as cheesy and dumb as they are, I really like them. I think they are so cool. So getting something that reminds me of that, I think is pretty neat, actually. And even though it's probably just going to be a lighthearted show, not much to it, I think it's going to be pretty neat, actually. So I think that was everything that Lucasfilm announced today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching this. And please feel free to share your comments down in the comment section below of what you liked or what you disliked. It's an open discussion. Be sure to share your thoughts. So thank you so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for more Geeker things.